Testing. 1, 2, 3. Woo! Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Hello. Good to see some familiar faces here early in the morning.
And some new ones. Good to see you.
So all right.
This is Scott. I'm Dave. And
this is Morning Startup.
We are Morning Startup.
Now, there's some food at the back. We'll have some half an hour of networking after the talk today. And there's also coffee out the front at Joey Zaza's. Just tell them you're at Morning Startup and they will give you a free coffee. Thanks to one of our sponsors, which we'll get into in a sec. What else do we do? How do we start this? My name's Scott Glue. I'm a startup founder. This is Dave Newman. He's a startup founder too.
We've been doing this since 2011 or late 2011. Purely for a place for us to get together, talk about what works, what doesn't work, and hopefully share some of the insights. And every 2 weeks we'll have an awesome presenter like we do today, who will share some of the insights so that you can take some more away from it. We're quite a large community now. We're over 6,500 members.
Yep.
I think it was fourth or third largest in Australia. So
all right, we got work to do.
Yeah, we have.
From Perth. All right. Well, does that count the live stream? Because
live stream could count. Yeah, definitely.
Well, who are you guys? Why are you here? That's what we want to know. Is anyone brave enough to stand up, give it a 30-second little pitch? Awesome. This is a previous Morning Startup speaker.
Hello. So I'm Echo. I'm working for Fuglu, which is an art technology company in Perth, based in Perth. So currently we are launching DAC, Decentralized Art Gallery features, which connect venue owner or manager, so a restaurant, cafe, hotel, surrounding with the local artists surrounding the area. So basically for the venue, they can get free hanging, free art hanging, and for the artists, they can get some kind of exposure for their artworks as well. So I'm hoping that any of you that managing any venues, so this can be co-working space as well. Please contact me or someone who knew someone who managing space. So that's my pitch.
Okay. Is anyone managing a space or has an office or something where you could hang some artwork? Do some artwork.
Let's have a round of applause for that.
Hello, Peter Kasprzak from Innovate Australia. I just wanted to tell you we're organizing another event, and this one is called Realistic Future of Transport. So we added the word realistic because there's a lot of future of transport, but we do have some challenges. So it's good to acknowledge with what's happening with how we're going to converting to electric vehicles and buses, etc. So. It's on Eventbrite, so you can find it if you type Perth and future of transport, realistic future of transport. Yeah, you find it. So thanks.
When is it?
27th. Sorry.
27th of June. Cool. Yeah. Here? Is it here or is it somewhere else?
It's on Hay Street.
On Hay Street. Okay. Cool.
Who else is brave enough to stand up and introduce themselves and tell us what you're working on? We know who the newbies are as well, so I will put a microphone in your face.
God.
No one else? No one?
It's just I'm working on this, need help with this. Does anyone need help with anything?
No? Okay.
No? Fine.
Well,
I'm looking for communications, marketing, storytellers, by the way, if you want to come and help me at my software company. That's my next hire. So get in touch. Shameless plug for me.
Yes. Take advantage. Like I said, it does work. Sometimes we've had people stand up and go, I'm looking for this problem. I've got this, and literally there's been someone sat on the opposite side of the room, and they've gone, I can help you with that, and it does work. So use the community. If you've got a question, you've got a problem to solve, put it out, put it on the group. There's going to be 6,500 people. There's got to be someone that can help you.
Exactly. Okay, so Founder Sundowner, besides Morning Startup in the morning, which is a pretty horrible time, especially in winter, we've got Founder Sundowner on the first Wednesday of every month. And if you look at your calendar, you'll realise that's tonight. So if you want something to do tonight, come along to Nowhere Man Brewery over in West Leederville. Come and chat to other startup founders. Drinks aren't free, but pizza is, and the conversation is. So please come along and, have some fun. Also, this is happening on the weekend. Does anyone not know about Startup Weekend? Is anyone going? Yeah, that's the spirit. Cool.
Awesome weekend. It's basically where if you've got an idea, take it to this place and you can try and validate it. It's a bit like a competition. You meet some awesome people and you'll try and validate it and essentially create like a little mini business at the end of the weekend. And
You start up in 54 hours or something?
Yeah, and
it's really good.
And it works. It does work. It teaches you a really valuable lesson, which is really understated in startup world, which is go and get customer feedback. And I know from someone, we did it once, and we went in there with an idea for drones because they were the cool thing back in sort of 2013. I think it was number 7 actually. And we couldn't validate it. Thought, bugger it, we're going to leave. And then I had this one idea, and we thought, what about a tracker? It wasn't going to make it. It was just an idea for the weekend. What about a tracker for kids or something like that? And we stuck it on the good old Mandra buy and sell and left it there, and then came back the next day and we'd had over 2,500 people reply, and there's some really thought-provoking kind of comments, some saying you shouldn't lose your kids, some going you can't help it. And it was literally that one thing that taught me personally that customer validation. They put stuff in there that essentially wrote our backlog for that we then presented that afternoon on the Sunday, and then went on to win.
Yeah,
so it was such a cool event that highly recommend.
Be prepared to talk
there.
to a lot of people
Yes.
over the weekend, not just send out surveys, actually speaking to people and
Yeah.
hearing what they've got to say about your idea. And or even if you don't have an idea, you can just rock up and then listen to the pitches on the Friday night and join a team. And that's a great way to just get into how you think about validation and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So get around it. Startup weekend, number 20, All Stars edition. Okay.
Massive thank you to the Department of Jobs, Tourism, Science and Innovation, JITSI. Without them, we wouldn't be able to stream it, so big thanks to them for streaming this to the regions, and I think there's a few international viewers now as well that do tune in. But if you haven't heard about the New Industries Fund, check it out. They're responsible for a number of different initiatives, from the Innovator of the Year, or Innovators. Sorry, Peter.
Of the year.
Innovator of the Year. Right the way through to different things like, for example, WA Deal Room. So if you haven't been on WA Deal Room, go and have a look. It's a lot of interesting information about companies here. You may feel your company's not on it, but I can guarantee it will be on there. So go in and update it. So thank you to the New Industries Fund.
Did you also know you can get money from these guys if you've got a startup idea? So the Innovation Booster Grants, it's up to $40,000, non-matched funding. And the Commercialisation Bridge Grant, which if you're a scale-up, $200,000 of matched funding for that one. So get around it. Perth Video, these guys. Hey, Reese and Jurgen, wherever you are. If you need some live streaming assistance, there's no better folks than these guys. I mean, live streaming from anywhere where there's no internet connection, it's mad. All right.
Ammo. Massive thank you to Ammo. If you are looking for marketing support, then check out ammo.marketing. The team there are awesome, and if you haven't checked out the Weird Growth podcast, definitely go and check that one out as well.
Who uses Ammo Marketing here or has used them? John! Nice. Good things to say?
Yeah, right.
Terrible things to say?
As well, yeah.
All right, good. You've heard it here first. Get it. Beacham Group, Glenn's not here, but if you need good talent or you got talent, you need a gig, these guys are a boutique recruitment company here in Perth, so they can help you out. Who's looking for a job or needs startup people to come and join them? No one? Cool. Hit up Glenn.
Big shout out to KeepSpace and Jesse and Tina at KeepSpace. Who knows what 3PL is? No?
3PL. Does that mean
3PL?
anything to anyone?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know what it is. I thought it was like some laser thing for legs. But, that's apparently something different. But 3PL is essentially if you are an e-commerce store and you do shipping and that, check out KeepSpace. They'll store the goods, ship it for you whenever orders come through. They've got an awesome online platform. And also a massive shout out to them for supplying the brekkie down the end there. So thank you so much to Jesse and the team there at KeepSpace.
Yeah, I know it's only a few boxes, but it's not cheap. So thank you, Jesse. So please fill your bellies after this or during this. And Tekkon, these guys. Okay, if you are a software company, you need developers, right? They're expensive, especially here in Australia. Even more so in the US. What about Nepal? They're pretty cheap. They're good. They know their stuff, they're cost effective, but it's all managed here in Perth. So they use a dev team over in Nepal, all managed here in Perth. They can help you build your app faster or your website or whatever it needs to be.
Brilliant.
And finally...
Last but not least, we'll run through these. So Space Cubes, Scott and I are volunteers. We get to do this for the love of the community. There's no payment here, but it does cost us a bit of money to run some of the services. So that's why we have KeepSpace to pay for the food. We have Tekkon who pay for your coffees, and then I think Ammo help pay for the meetup subscriptions.
Pizzas at Founder Sundown, all
but
that
Space
stuff.
Cube, they also give us this space for free, so we bring you beautiful people into here. And if you are looking for co-working space, then check out Riff, Flux at the end, and Fern. And then also if you're looking to expand over east, they now have the Western Sydney Startup Hub. And I know that firsthand because I know when I've just expanded out to have put 16 staff over in Sydney, the Startup Hub in Parramatta is great, and we've literally gone smash straight into that place and then into a bigger office. So nice. Space Cube, big thank you to them. If you haven't checked out or subscribed, check out Startup News every Friday in your mailbox. Gorgeous piece of nugget information about what's going on in the ecosystem.
Startup WA, they are a body for lobbying to government. They've also put out cool newsletters and put on cool events. So become a member of Startup WA, 100% free. Just get on their website and join.
Tekkon, if you haven't claimed Techboard, if you haven't claimed your profile, go in and claim that. And last but not least, Plus 8. I did a mentoring session in the Sydney one last Thursday, so it was really cool to see all the new ones over there coming out. So if you haven't seen what Plus 8 is, it's an accelerator. They have lots of different programs, sprint, pre-sprint, then the actual big accelerator where you'll get up to I think it's up to 100 grand's worth of funding now.
Yeah.
Runs every year. If you've missed this year's one, but it will run again next year, hopefully. But it's basically, check out Plus 8. It basically gives you the skills to kind of learn how to go through the company, get some access to some great mentors.
It's like Startup Weekend, but over a year or something, right?
Over about 12 weeks, yeah. Yeah. So
Very
this year
cool.
they're going, the teams are all off to the UK to sort of look at what the UK market has to offer.
Brilliant. All right, we're always looking for cool speakers. We've got a great one today for you with Min. But yeah, if you've got something of interest to the startup community, please get in touch. We're Morning Startup on all of your things. Easy to find. So this is coming up in 2 weeks. We've got Pichapa, who's doing AI, who's using AI for anything at the moment in their business. Pretty much everyone, you should be. Yeah, cool. It gets things wrong all the time, makes people with munted fingers and all that sort of stuff. You can't just kind of trust it blindly. So the talk in 2 weeks' time is going to be about how you can use AI, but also with a human touch to make sure you're doing it right. Just tips and tricks and dodging digital disasters. So that'll be fun. I actually tried to use AI to get rid of the blurry, low-quality image, and it just came out looking like someone slightly different than the actual person. So sorry about the quality. We'll fix that up. All right, and that's formalities out of the way. All right.
Well, I think we need to have a little thing. I need to get a sign that's just laugh.
It works.
Yeah.
Okay, that's enough from us. We'll get on to the main gig here, which is Min, who is going to be talking about communicating with developers and designers without looking crazy. He did a short talk. I first saw him talk at Latency Conference, and we had a chat afterwards. And so that was really good, but it was only 5 minutes. Let's hear the full story on how you can do this and do it better. So I'm really looking forward to this because I'm talking to developers and designers all the time, and my God, it can be a challenge. So yeah, let's put it together for Min. Woo.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Morning Startup. Thanks, Scott and Dave, for that intro, and thank you all for attending, and everyone who is live streaming as well. I understand it is very bright and early, and everyone's just slowly waking up, so I will give you a little bit of a warm-up, but I will explain who I am in this very slide here. My name's Min. I'm originally from New Zealand, so hence the accent, and now I'm based in Perth. I was a food technologist, so that's me holding a Hunt and Brew mocha. You might have seen that in the supermarket. And now I'm a UX designer working for Adapt. We are a resilient business coaching company based in Subiaco. And I love ideas, hence why I kind of came across with this talk around communicating ideas and also how to actually communicate that with designers and developers. So, who here is a business owner or who has an idea currently? That's almost everyone. Yeah, you have this idea and you want to bring it to life like right now. Like, you just know it's going to be awesome. You want to strike when the iron is hot. You've got the motivation, you got the inspiration, and if you're lucky, you got the resources. And you just want to make this happen. But there's a little caveat. You might know nothing about tech. Is there anyone in this boat that knows nothing about tech? Yes, thank you. I appreciate the candor. And you just know it's going to be awesome and the world needs it. Like, this is something that's been in your mind for a long, long time. You're going to be the next Elon Musk, the next Jeff Bezos, or whoever you worship, because this idea, you know, is just going to change your mind. It's going to be massive. But do you actually know? Seriously, do you actually know if your idea is going to be good? No one actually knows. But if you're a business owner, what do? You jump into solution mode. And for anyone who's in a relationship, when your partner is talking to you, this is not what you do. But what exactly are ideas? Ideas are brain farts that can change the world. Keyword, can change the world. They don't have to change the world. The thing is with ideas is that they need to be tested. They need to be smashed up, they need to be cut up, and they need to be broken down into exactly what they really are. Ideas can live in your head for a second or an entire lifetime. And sometimes if you have a hot shower and you have that idea, then it just disappears. Or you have a dream, you wake up, and that brilliant idea that you had that was going to make you billions, it's just gone. If we're not careful, ideas can become energy vampires. They can actually suck out all of your life force if you are not careful. If they stay in there in your head for too long, it's going to weigh you down. So, do not be precious with your ideas. Does anyone know who this person is, thing is? It's Gollum from Lord of the Rings. So, have this analogy that the ring is an idea. Gollum just kept it in this little cave for how many years and didn't do anything with it. And he turned out like that. If Gollum was a smart businessman or really ambitious, he would have taken that ring, hopefully not get corrupted by the Dark Lord, and taken over Middle Earth. But no, he stayed in his cave. Don't be Gollum. Ideas need to get exposed to the sun. If it's a good idea, it will survive. And if it's a bad idea, it's just going to burn like the vampire that it is. So when you have these ideas, what are you going to do? If you live in a startup ecosystem, this word starts with V. Validate, validate, validate. The validate Kool-Aid is something that if you are a budding entrepreneur, a business owner, is something you're going to be drinking all the time. If validation was an alcoholic drink, all business owners would actually be alcoholics if they weren't already. But how do you validate? First, ask yourself, have you seen this idea before? Have you seen your idea being used anywhere else? You probably have. Some people are so afraid to actually expose their idea to reality. But everyone has a phone. You can Google search if your idea already exists. Or better yet, you can go to something like a crowdfunding platform, such as Indiegogo. Does anyone know what Indiegogo is? Indiegogo is a great platform to find out if your idea already exists. So, for example, the Americans have an aluminum freezer, which is what we call an esky. May not be a novel idea, but it's still an idea that is actually getting some kind of money. Also, if you want to release any kind of creative project, Indiegogo is great for that, but I'm not advertising them. Is your idea actually solving a problem? Not all ideas need to solve a problem. Sometimes an idea can just be cool, but it's better if it can actually solve a problem, which I will touch on that a little bit later. And also, can you explain your idea in less than 30 seconds? If you have an idea and it's super concise and you can actually start explaining it, that's going to really help. And then when you have this idea, you can filter it through with the desirability, viability, feasibility framework. Who's seen this before? Yes. Well, some people have said. Well, I'll explain what this framework is. The desirability is about finding out who your customer is. And the feasibility is around if the technology exists to actually build the idea. And the viability is around if you can actually make a business out of it. And hopefully, your little brain fart idea intersects right in the middle. There is a little mathematical formula when it comes to ideas. And that is, the idea multiplied with some execution is going to give some value to a customer. So when it comes to ideas, who should you speak with first? Sometimes you might say, I could speak with my friends or family, but depending on your relationship with your friends and family, they might say, hey, it's really great, and you might go ahead with it. Or they might tell you it's really crap, and you won't go ahead with it at all. So instead, actually start with people that you trust and that are honest enough with you to tell you what they really think and genuinely want to help you. And also, seek advice from people who have walked that path before. Your idea might be a parallel or a tangent to something that already exists. Speak with them, reach out to them in LinkedIn, and actually find out what they went through. But if your idea is fresh, I hope you've spoken to some customers, like real-life customers. Scott mentioned Startup Weekend, and Startup Weekend is actually a great way to actually start talking to your customers. And are your customers actually willing to pay for a solution? But this goes to the real question of what this topic is about this morning. Do you speak with designers or devs first? The thing is, you should really be speaking with both, I hope. But this is going with the assumption that your idea is tech-based. But it really depends on who you need to speak with. Your idea may already be fully fleshed out in the design, or you might be a designer yourself, and you just need a developer to actually go through it and make it to fruition. If you don't know anything about tech, I would recommend talking with a designer, and I will explain why you should talk with a designer first. Being a UX designer myself, I have to explain a few things about us UX designers. Are there any other designers in the room here? Yes, there are. Okay, so not just speaking for myself, but I will say, designers don't just make things pretty. Please remember this, even though it's in the title, we are not just making things eye-catching or whatever. And whatever you do, if you're explaining your idea, or you got an idea, please don't say, make it pretty, or make it pop, like there's a magic button that makes it happen for us, because there isn't. Also, there is a difference between a UX and a UI designer. Sometimes there is a crossover between the two, but I will also explain what the difference is. So UX designer, typically they will conduct user research to find what the needs are, the goals, the behaviors, and the pain points for your users or your target customers, and also develop user personas and user journey maps on how they might use your product or idea. They will build out wireframes and prototypes on what it could look like, and then also conduct user testing. A UI, or user interface designer, is the person that will kind of choose what the color palettes are, the typography, and the interaction between the different elements, like your buttons and your drop-down menus and your text fields. They make the high-fidelity wireframes so that it's close as possible to what your product is going to look like or what your idea is going to be. And they will work very closely with developers to convert those designs into your working product. So there's a lot of business ideas, or just ideas in general, that are only just jumping to a solution, as I said before, but they've actually never asked what the users are going through or how they feel about a problem that we are hypothesizing about. UX designers will typically help you articulate what the actual problem is that you're trying to solve and understand your users' or customers' actual pain points. So when you're speaking to a designer, don't just focus on the aesthetics. There's a lot more to the design than just making things look pretty. And also, when you're speaking to a designer, please be open-minded to what the problem is you're trying to solve from different perspectives. And if you have an initial idea and there's some areas that you don't know, just say you don't know. A UX designer will help you find that answer. And one of the things that UX designers are good is we can actually take your idea and allocate them into a problem space. And there's 3 typical problem spaces, which is people, planet, and prosperity. And these categories could be, but not limited to, healthcare, education, equality, safety and security for people, agriculture, water, life on land, food waste, climate action for planet, in construction, clean energy, sustainable cities, and infrastructure for prosperity. So sometimes your idea can actually be a crossover between all of these different problem spaces. I'll give examples of each. So for people, for example, if someone wants to take care of another person who has Alzheimer's or dementia, they might want a support network to actually lessen that distress. And that is just a problem, but it's actually not looking into a solution just yet. And for a planet, so for example, households and businesses, maybe they don't track what their waste is or what the water usage is. That's also looking into exactly what the problem is. And for career changes, there could be more support onto making that transition in terms of prosperity. And that is just a little touch of what your idea can fit into our problem space. Now moving on to developers. Is anyone a developer here? Oh, okay, I'm outnumbered again. However, I won't be. This is not about bashing devs. You need devs in your team because they rule the world, and without them, you don't have a business, you don't have a product. So devs aren't just nerds. So devs actually are going to be doing a lot more than just building a product. They understand how things are going to be working. Now, the next slide, I'm just going to say that stereotypically, because of the nature of how devs think in their world, it's very 0-1, it's very black and white, it's very yes or no, that devs can and will crap on your idea if they don't like it. So just be wary of that. So they might say, you gotta have thicker skin. Well, especially for devs, you need the thickest skin. There are devs who will literally straight up to your face say, your idea is crap. And you've got to be okay with that. So when you're speaking with a dev, be really, really sure of what your idea is going to look like. You may have already spoken to a designer beforehand and what it feels like. And again, what is the problem you're trying to solve? And the best way when you're talking to a developer, from what I've experienced, is to provide examples of what's worked before on another app or platform. And this is an example of what I found. If I said this idea to you, I want to make a Tinder, but for dogs. Does this exist? It sure does. It's called Paw Mates. So if I wanted to create a platform in Perth, I would say, please develop something similar to Paw Mates. It is exactly like Tinder. It's got swiping left and right, and it's got profiles with the added feature of finding other vets and groomers in your area. So if you're a dog owner, that's actually, I would probably use that app. So as I said before, devs rule the world. They're going to be building your products. So get to know them as people. They're not just computers, even though sometimes devs will think of themselves as computers. Don't project that onto them either. So just be really nice to them, please. Now, how do we really communicate to devs and designers? I'm actually might be putting both devs and designers into one pool, but this is what I found really works. First, put your ego away. If you're a business owner or entrepreneur, we can smell ego from miles and miles away. Ego is great in little doses, but not too much ego. And know your why. Seriously, know your why. If you know what your why is, then it's going to help a lot more. And if you don't know what your why is, or if you're getting triggered by me saying you don't know what your why is, then there might be a sign for you to figure out what your why is. Also, data is sexy. If you have substantial data or figures of what you found or researched or spoken with customers, then show that to the designers and the developers. We will lap that up. And speaking of ideas, when I said that they're going to be smashed up a lot, they will be. Be ready to pivot. This is the other Kool-Aid word that is used in a startup ecosystem. Pivoting happens a lot for your idea. Your idea is not a static thing, it's ever evolving. And do not assume anything. Do not assume anything about your idea. Do not assume anything about what the developer or the designer has to do. Always, always, always ask what is actually going to be happening or progressing. And get us on board with your vision and mission, and not just the idea, not just the product. The product or the idea is just a means to achieve what your outcome or what the vision is actually going to be. I've got another formula for you on how to tell your story. So first, you want to tell what the problem is. So I hope that you've spoken to some customers and you've been able to allocate it into a problem space. And once you know your why, tell us your why. It doesn't have to be a long spiel. Some people love that. Have your data and evidence and use that in your desirability, feasibility, viability framework. And also your potential solution. And here are some examples of what not to do. Anyone recognize these folks? Just to give a little bit of context, the lady on the left is Elizabeth Holmes. She was the founder of Theranos. Her big promise was that she can give you full blood tests from a single drop of blood. If she was actually to pull this off, she was prophesied to be the next Steve Jobs. Lo and behold, she wasn't. She was actually using her competitor's technology and lying to her customers. And she is now currently in a very nice, fancy prison cell. And on the right, we have SBF, aka Sam Bankman-Fried, who is also the son of ethics professors in America, who is also going to jail. And why I say these are examples of what not to communicate is because they overpromised on their idea and they completely and utterly underdelivered on what they were supposed to do. If you're going to be communicating to your divs and designers, please be honest and don't do this, ending up on Forbes magazine. Here's another example. The AI rabbit. Who recognizes this? I heard a few laughs already. Yes. So, the AI rabbit, just to give a little bit of context, is a AI-powered gadget where if you're speaking to it, using the Perplexity AI is going to give you some results and supposedly help you with your life. However, there were promises that it will give you carbon negative NFTs. Let me repeat that again. Carbon negative NFTs. That's an oxymoron. That can't exist. So even though this is an ongoing thing, I'm going to make my bet that this is going to fall into the shambles alongside with SBF and Elizabeth Holmes. But that's, for me, an example of trying to sell an idea, over-promising and under-delivering. If you look in the reviews for this thing, it is abysmal. So I hope no one has actually bought this thing, right? Okay, good. And this is an example of what to do instead. Another great framework. So your idea, hopefully, is going to be functional. At the very least, it needs to be functional. It also needs to be reliable. People need to keep going back to it. And it needs to be usable. But also enjoyable. Whenever we have a new idea, we tend to just focus on this little bottom of just making it completely functional. But I would say, please don't do this. If you want to see what really functional, just barely functional looks like, this is the official website of Berkshire Hathaway. Warren Buffett, one of the top investors in the world. This is his actual website. This is very, very functional, but it is, let's put it this way, he can afford to put something like this, which is ironic because he can afford to also make something way more prettier than this. But we are not Warren Buffett's, unfortunately, so ironically we can not afford to have a website like this. So I recommend having your idea to be functional, reliable, usable, and enjoyable as a sliver through the whole thing, and not just picking and choosing. I will also just go through a case study of what I did before joining Adapt as a UX designer. I did some work for Fora. So Fora, in a nutshell, is essentially matchmaking therapy assistants with clients. So clients who may have some form of disability or something they need help with, like physio or speech pathology. And working with them was around a client or client manager will feel unsure about accepting a therapy assistant, and they wanted to have a better understanding of what's being offered, but there were FaceTime constraints in real life, and that causes their applications to expire. So typically when you have a client, they usually are staying at home and they will need another means to actually meet up with their therapy assistant. So this was the initial idea, that was the initial problem. So what we did, we had to validate. And how do we validate? We speak with our potential customers or existing customers. So we had some video interviews. We spoke with mothers of special needs children. We spoke with a primary caregiver and also someone who was also working at Fora. And after we spoke with these people, we put them and synthesized the results into what we call an empathy map. So an empathy map in the UX design world is around gathering all of the insights from those interviews or the research and finding out who they are, what do they need to do, what are they seeing, what they think, what are they hearing, and what are their pains and gains. And the key insights that we got from that is that there were no real reasons as to why a client was turned down or rejected by a therapy assistant and vice versa. And clients, ideally, they wanted like a location and a time for how they could actually find where the therapy assistant was if they were nearby. And they wanted some reasons as to why they were accepted when they matched. And they could actually want some form of drop-down options for being rejected, if that was the case. Which developed a how might we. So a how might we is a statement that actually frames us to start creating a solution. So working with Fora, we said, how might we streamline the existing onboarding process to make it easier to complete and find suitable therapy assistance so that the rate of successful matches can be increased without the need for manual intervention. Because what was happening was that people had to jump in the middle when the matching was happening and actually call people up individually, which was painful, which led to ideation. So speaking of ideas, your one idea can spawn out multiple different ideas. So we had customer journey brainstorming, which is around actually finding out what the user or customer is actually going through on their day-to-day and how they were actually facing the issue or problem. And then we did a crazy 8. So crazy 8 is having one idea and you try to split that into 8 different ideas within a group or your team. And from that, we had some sketches and some low-fidelity wireframes. So just some context, a low-fidelity wireframe is literally just hand sketch of what the potential app solution could look like. And then we put those ideas into a minimal viable product framework, and we allocated what was a high value and easy on top right, and the low value to difficult on the bottom left. And of course, we wanted to focus on what was the high value and easiest thing to tackle. And we found that it was, if we could get a calendar sync between the therapy assistant and the client, which then established into a user flow of how the client was actually going to match with the therapy assistant and vice versa, which led to actual high fidelity wireframes. So what we found is that because clients and therapy assistants couldn't always meet up in person, we integrated a feature where they could do a video call first, just to do like a trial run between the therapy assistant and the client. And we found that it really helped actually making matches easier, and a drop-off rate was reduced significantly. And these were some of the many iterations that we did. So back to this framework. Typically, your devs are going to make something that's functional and reliable, and the UX UI designers are going to make something that's usable and enjoyable. Of course, this is just an indication. It's not a true, real guideline. We all can have a part of this. And most of all, for your little brain fart of an idea, just enjoy the process. Make sure you have fun. So just to recap, when you're telling a story on how to communicate to developers and designers, understand what your problem is, what is your why, have the data and evidence, and also a potential solution. And thank you. Any questions?
products, I found the best things happen when you actually enjoy making them. That's when the best products come out. Anyway.
Any questions? There must be. There's a few. Right. I'll go that way and then come to you.
Thank you so much. So my background is in healthcare, not in any of this. Mm-hmm. So what are some questions that I should be asking to vet somebody to do a UX or a UI framework thingy for me? Yeah.
That is a great question. Typically, developers and designers will have a portfolio. Developers will usually have like a GitHub, so they would have done some work. Designers as well would also have some like a portfolio or a website. So I would say ask for that. And depending on how you want to like connect with your designer or developer, if you want them to be on board with your mission, or if it's something that you just need them to do a job for you. And either case, let them know up front so you know, or if it's both, that's fine too. If you just want to do a trial run, that's also a good way to do it as well. And testimonials, yes.
Hi, Min. Thanks very much for your presentation. It was very interesting. Can you tell me, at Adapt or Adept, is it?
Adapt.
Adapt, yeah. What type of solutions do you do there? Is that for websites or for apps? And what kind of solutions are you providing UX for and UI?
Another great question. So at Adapt, we do business coaching, and they have a SaaS platform for themselves. So my main responsibility is that if you, for example, are in a navigation team or a leadership team, you will be using the Adapt platform to store and also create your strategy, your values, and your culture for not just your leadership team, but for your entire organization. So my role is to make sure that when you are creating those things for your team, and that it's going to be a seamless experience. Because from my understanding, speaking with a lot of business owners and people in leadership teams, that is something that is often neglected or put to the side because they're so busy trying to just be either commercially viable or get the next lead. And we want to make sure that it's still important, and also that you're working with your team and not against each other.
You don't work for Adapt, do you? Because that was a great shame. That was a great shameless plug. You're a plug. You're a plug. Any other questions?
Hello, hi. So one of your slide was on do not assume, right?
Uh-huh.
So my question is that what is the difference between assume and imagine?
Oh, okay.
Means assume has a negative effect and imagine has got a positive effect, right? Like mental maps, how the process is gonna work in your startup or in your business. So I almost had 10, 15 ideas which I assumed a lot and imagined, but whenever I go to a customer or discuss with people, it's gonna just vanish. So do you have something for me how to differentiate between that when you are thinking about your startup or an idea?
Oh, I love that question. Just because, as you said, when we assume, we assume it's a negative connotation, right? And when we imagine, right, it's almost like a positive thing. I would say keep both. However, when you are assuming, try to assume less, just because from what I've observed and read, all of the most successful business owners and entrepreneurs, they never stop imagining. And sometimes they are imagining things based on what they've seen, or they just want to make something happen. And those assumptions, test those assumptions. They're always going to be there regardless, but if you can test them, Because you probably, if you look at, for example, as Elizabeth Holmes, she assumed that her solution was going to work, even though her people told her it is not possible. She was imagining it, right? It's only possible until it's done, but
You've got to have big dreams and big thoughts, and she made straight the path.
she definitely strayed the path. She definitely had wonderful ambition, and sometimes there is a mismatch between where your imagination is and your ambition is. So bringing that awareness is super important. So I think understanding where that is crucial when you're having that journey. Great question, thank you.
I got a question. Peter from Innovate Australia. Percentage of developers that actually now skilled in AI, in metaverse, in designing avatars and agents? No, I'm just asking, do you know, does every developer is skilled in that, or I doubt it?
I also doubt it too.
Yeah. But do you know, are the people who are actually outstanding people in Perth who actually are good in that areas?
Me personally, I don't know anyone who has those skills. I'm pretty sure there are.
Don't exist.
They exist somewhere.
It's a unicorn.
Yeah, but yeah.
Yet. Okay.
Okay. Got time for a couple more questions. Let me just.
I think I'll just comment on the previous question, assumption versus imagination. I'm coming from research, doing like research in geophysics, subsurface stuff. But I think when you talk to customers, it's great to imagine things and absolutely essential to assume certain like outcomes of your idea. But when you talk to actual customers, just keep your assumption to yourself and listen what they say. So the more you listen, the more you learn and validate your idea. So that is talking to Lean Startup Framework, where you just talk to people to learn what their needs actually are. And yeah, I think that's the mindset you should approach this.
Yeah, hi, Brad Farley from Yokefellow. I really love that process of breaking down what needs to happen, easy peasy, hard, fast, whatever. In terms of getting from that point into those like low fidelity high frames, let alone the high fidelity wireframes, like, can you give everyone an estimate of like the hours it takes on how long is a piece of string? But you know, you're talking hundreds and hundreds of hours here. So if we're looking to like MVP to get to market quickly, spending 100 hours working out, oh, do they like a red button or a green button, can be a little bit too much detail. Can you kind of expand on that a little bit? How we can kind of get to that planning phase quicker, and get to market quicker, and then iterate on that?
That is a great question, and this is probably another plug, but Startup Weekend. You want to see how things go from idea to high fidelity? Startup Weekend's great for that. But to be perfectly honest, yes, it depends. However, if a designer, they may already have pre-existing design systems, and it will help you figure out exactly what you need. If you, for example, don't have your brand colors completely firmed up yet, that's completely fine. Good UX or UI designer will have a design system ready to literally plug and play. And as soon as you've got that locked in, then you can put those in. So, as you said, finding out those colors should not be preventing you from pushing out an MVP. And I've seen people do, like, for example, in Startup Weekend, like in 50 hours, and they can range from 50 to 150 hours just to get that initial low fidelity to high fidelity. So depending on whether you have a specific launch or you want to showcase to somebody, and it's also understanding that it is a continuous iteration. Like, it's never going to be perfect, but you can get it close to it being presentable, at least to whoever you need it presented to.
Yeah, really. And I think keeping it to that the grid where you've got the easy, hard, really helps you kind of find focus and step towards that, and you can iterate back and then go to the start with the low-hanging fruit. Yep. Thank you.
Just on that note, it has never been easier to create an MVP. It's so cheap these days. You should all be able to do it very quickly with tools of like Unbounce, if you've ever done that. If you want to test a validation, Unbounce page, a validation page like that. Maybe we'll do a presentation on minimal viable product or MLPs, minimal lovable product.
Actually, I will save it for later, my question.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, we're literally, you are like the last question. We got a couple more questions, so. Would you all like to see a presentation on MLP, building your minimal lovable products?
Yes.
Who's in the next one?
We've got Beacham talking about AI.
Okay, yeah. Maybe we do it maybe I'll do the presentation I did to the +8 group last week in August when I get back.
Can I have one small little request, if everyone's open to it? I got a reminder to take a selfie.
Let's do it.
to put on LinkedIn. Is that okay? So it's okay. Yeah. So for the whole, if everyone could just like, yeah. If no one wants to be in, that's okay. Yeah.
All right. Let's do it. Get in the middle there, and we'll. All
right. What's the best way to do this?
Just like that. Literally like that.
Do you want me to take the photo, or does it have to be a selfie? It'll be a me and
You want to
you
go
and
inside there?
So cheese.
Cheese.
Woo! Come on, guys.
Woo!
Look enthusiastic.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's have a round of applause.
I'll take that. Yeah. Cheers. Well, I hope you all got something out of that. Ready to go and develop your MVP and talk to devs and designers better? I know. I'd sort of one comment generally that I've worked out is language around talking to developers and designers. Like, just create a dictionary or glossary of terms for your app. Like, for me, it's like defining what is a tenant versus what is a branch versus what is an admin or a brand, all that sort of stuff. Because you end up, I just had this like 20-minute conversation with a developer yesterday and worked out we were both talking about different things. Like, I was saying the word middleware, and he was thinking that was something else. And so just having a glossary of what that actually means is important.
Definitely. We'll be here in 2 weeks' time when we're talking AI.
Yes.
And we are looking for presenters as well. And I guess also to the point we just said there is if there is a topic that you really want to know more about, like MVPs and MLPs, maybe we'll go and we'll get that in and let us know what you want to hear, and we'll go and find the right person to present it back to you so that you learn from. You don't make the mistakes that Scott and I have made during that process.
Is anyone an MVP expert that would like to do that talk? All right, well, get in touch with us if you are. But in the meantime, please enjoy the beautiful food that's been driving me nuts for the last hour. And if you need your carbs, get in there. Grab a coffee from Joey Zaza's, tell me your morning startup, and see you in 2 weeks' time. Oh, no, see you tonight at Found a Sundowner. Then see you in 2 weeks' time.
Thank
All
you.
right, cheers, everyone.
See you later.
See ya.